So yeah, I'm on the music boat too. I've been trying to tap into positive music as much as possible, getting into some soul lately, uh, some Sam and Dave and the Impressions. Lots of good stuff out there, but trying to stay upbeat. So yeah, I'm going to be talking about the communications timeline and just give you some kind of good guidance on kind of how to approach communicating around a giving day. And really, like, was said previously, there are tons of resources on givemore24.org. And really, I kind of want to start there. Some of the common questions are, when do we start promoting Give More 24? What should I be doing right now? There is a great messaging guide posted on the toolkit, and I'll actually upload that file right now for everyone to be able to access. But it's a good starting place, and it has a lot of the information that I'm going to be reviewing right now will be included in that guide, and just gives you some great kind of roles and responsibilities to consider as you build out your campaign. So that file is up in the chat now, and it is a 8-week breakdown. Right now we're about 9 weeks out, so this is a good, you get 1 week jump start on it. And I will say that this is a good foundation, but you definitely want to customize it to fit your organization's capacity or goals. I know that some organizations out there are operating with one person at the helm, and so when it comes down to roles and responsibilities, those are pretty easy to dole out because there's only one name to fill in the box. But yeah, so just make sure that you're biting off what you can chew as an organization. So the first thing to kind of jump into is this week and what we could be doing right now. This is, as was stated before, finalizing your profile is kind of the number one priority, the thing that you should take care of first. There's a great resource article for how to create a stellar profile page on givemore24.org. It's for us, it's less about telling, with a mission statement and more about showing the impact of what your gifts can do, or what someone's gift can do through your organization. So one date that I will mention is that in mid-August is when the Give More 24 ad campaign really starts to launch, and that's when a lot of people are starting to come to the site. So making sure that your profile is up to date by mid-August is really crucial, because that's when eyeballs will be kind of sifting through the site and looking. People will start thinking about where they want to be giving come September. So the other piece that you want to be thinking about this week is creating your campaign theme and a plan or schedule for your outreach and publicity efforts. So this starts with kind of talking about how you are celebrating Give More 24, or what kind of what your campaign theme will be. And there's a lot of creative ideas out there. If this is your first year, you probably don't want to get too wild and crazy with it, but there are some fun ways to kind of engage folks, whether that's through storytelling from staff, volunteers, or people doing kind of, authentic storytelling through selfie videos. You can also do, like a pet or selfie photo contests. There's lots of fun that you can have online, and I think we'll be diving into some of that community engagement strategy later on today. So the other, kind of figuring out what your campaign theme will be and building out those messages and the schedule of when you want to reach out to people and what you want to be talking about. Those are some critical things to kind of work through this week so that you can begin launching your campaign just with an announcement next week. And I'll get into a little more about kind of the concentration and like the, you know, how we kind of approach the Giving Day and progressively talk more and more about it as we get closer to September 24th. Some team roles and tasks that you'll see in the worksheet that you can or the handbook that I just shared. You can assign specific tasks to folks, but I think that thinking about roles is a really helpful way to kind of figure out who's in charge of which communications. Maybe you want to kind of assign somebody some technology, more technology specific roles, or fundraising messages. You want to have kind of a quarterback who's kind of overseeing the entire campaign, but then kind of parsing out specific tasks or roles that people can do. One of the other things to consider is that if you are kind of a smaller organization, you could think about your supporters, maybe some volunteers or people who have donated in the past. Are there people who are already doing great work in kind of sharing your social media posts, or people who you just know are kind of social media, natives, kind of people who just get it and always have a lot of action on their posts? Maybe reach out to these people early and get them on your team and give them a task that they can kind of own and engage in as you get closer to the day. Just kind of rallying your people. And that could be also a fundraising champion. We will certainly be talking about peer-to-peer fundraising later on. And so that's also a great role that somebody can take on. That's, it doesn't have to be an internal staff person. And then again, if you get creative with your approach, with your kind of campaign theme, it allows you to kind of fine tune your messaging and really create some content that will do better at getting people, to pause and take notice of your campaign, to stop scrolling down their feed and really look at what you all are offering. So then scheduling the outreach and communications, leading up to the day, you want to share relevant updates and kind of increasingly, increasing the frequency as we get closer. The Community Foundation generally approaches it with kind of more actionable things. We like to share out a save the date early on. And then if we have any press or media mentions, just kind of including those on social as they come out, because that is, relevant news. And then promoting any matches that you might have, so matching gifts or special events that you're planning. These are all very relevant items, and that relevancy is important when you're participating in a giving day, because we don't want to just keep, sending out kind of some standardized message that, give on September 24th. The Community Foundation will be doing some of that work, but really finding ways to kind of attract people and pull them into the event is critical, and not just kind of, and shouting at people. So one good way to kind of approach this is to maybe segment your audience a little bit. Ursula did talk about this previously, about kind of identifying maybe who your peer-to-peer fundraisers were previously, if you've participated in this event before. Another way is just kind of knowing who who those main supporters are in your database, and kind of reaching out to them, seeing if they want to be a peer-to-peer supporter if this is your first year. You can also kind of reach out to those folks who I said before, maybe are social media, powerhouses, and, kind of more or less a minor influencer, a localized influencer targeted on the community that you're operating in. And then begin to widen the net as we get closer to the giving day. So once you have those people who are your champions kind of on board, maybe this is in week 7 or week 6 out, then as you get closer in to maybe like 3 weeks out or 2 weeks out, then you start to widen the net and, ask a broader audience and just inform them that the day is coming up. So yeah, just thinking about, kind of widening the net as you get closer to the giving day. And as I said before, just increasing the concentration. So start with an announcement, in a newsletter. This could be, next week or the week after, and then progressively begin to increase that frequency because it is a buildup. And we don't want to kind of have people tuning out because they're just overloaded with messages. So 8 weeks out, having that teaser, and then, once we get into like 6 weeks, maybe you're posting once a week on social media. 4 weeks out, you maybe want to post twice a week. 2 weeks out, kind of just increasing again to 3 times a week, and then on the day of Give More 24, on September 24th, really posting quite a bit. You just want to be posting all about your big wins. If you're hitting goals along the way or meeting your matches, post anything about a fundraising or event update. Some folks have done Facebook Live videos in the past. And, this year will be certainly a whole new ballgame in terms of kind of how we all are approaching that engagement during COVID-19. So, you can use Instagram stories. We found a lot of success with those last year on our own personal profile. And just send out some personal thanks to those who are promoting on social media, or if you are able to, somehow find a way to thank your donors in real time via social media. There have been some organizations who have done that. In terms of scheduling, there's a lot going on as with any campaign. So with Give More 24, I just encourage people to use tools as much as possible. The workbook obviously is a great way to stay on track, but you can also use scheduling tools for social media and email. You're probably familiar with, Facebook has its own kind of built-in scheduling tool, but you can also use tools like Hootsuite and Buffer. Email client or email marketing applications like MailChimp and Constant Contact also allow you to schedule things in advance. So you can start to build out those messages early on and just have them ready and kind of revisit them, once a week before they're about to go out. So maybe schedule some time on Monday or on Friday to kind of review what's in the queue to go out of your social media schedule, or what's in the queue to go out from your email, and just fine-tuning the messages makes it a lot easier to kind of get the bulk of the work out of the way and then fine-tune later. Also, finding the resources on givemore24.org on our page. There's tons of templates. We have some pre-made social media. There's also a few email templates that you can find there. And I'll actually share a direct link to that, just because the toolkit is pretty intense. As some of you have already found, there's so many resources there, but this link that I've shared, you can click on it and save it for later. It has a few email templates and then some kind of best practices around email to read about. So then I just have a few things to note going forward. Some of the, I said before, we want to stay relevant and kind of not just bombard people with the same message over and over. So keeping things actionable, and also kind of staying on message when publicizing your organization and your participation in Give More 24. So one thing that we do is we often create some type of public calendar invite to invite people to, or allow them to add it to their calendar with one click. You can do this through, Google Calendar, Outlook. There's some pretty technical ways to add these links into an email, but we've also found, I'll give all credit to Lee on this, but she came across a application called Add Event, and this is at addevent.com. You basically plug in your information, and it builds out a kind of an insert that you can put into an email that has buttons pre-made that you can click on, and one click add an event to your calendar. So that's a very useful tool. Another good thing to kind of share out is any promotion around matching gifts, prizes, creative contests. If you are familiar with Giving Tuesday, they had an unselfie contest. You can come up with anything that kind of ties into your organization's mission, and just really promote that early on. It gives you something to talk about and gives people ways to kind of plug into your campaign and really personalize it. And also, virtual events are probably going to be huge this year. So figuring out some fun ways to just stay active on the giving day. Then you also want to, specifically, one other way to keep it actionable is to specifically ask people to share a piece of content as you're posting on social media, or to get involved as a peer-to-peer fundraiser, maybe, for instance. And then always, whenever possible, link to your own profile page. So if you're, maybe your call to action is to donate today on September 24th, you want to make sure that you're sharing the link to your profile specifically, so that as soon as people, as your supporters are clicking that link, they are directed to your profile page where they can donate to your organization. And if you don't know how to find that link, I also just shared a quick support article on how to find the link to your profile page. You can also just, copy paste from the URL above, but finding a way to kind of include a short link to your profile page would be very helpful for your supporters. The other piece that is always helpful for folks, if you have the time and capacity to build out some key messages or branded graphics for your campaign. If you have some specific messaging that you're kind of building your campaign around, supporting graphics is always really helpful. It ties it all together, just makes it really strong campaign and cohesive. And so these key messages can be also then shared with sponsors or your peer-to-peer fundraisers, so that they all are kind of saying the same things, more or less, kind of that support kind of an overall campaign message. Then, potentially you could begin, write blogs or just kind of a newsletter article, kind of exactly what you're doing for Give More 24, just kind of promoting the overall approach that you're taking and getting people excited. And then lastly, I just wanted to kind of touch on, again, the fact that, this is a large scale event. It's all of Southwest Washington, and even organizations that are just, that are just outside of Southwest Washington, but still serving in the communities that we live in here. There are, I think right now, over 215 organizations registered for Give More 24 in 2020. So that's a lot of people, a lot of organizations kind of sharing the same messaging. So just keep in mind that, there's a lot of people who are hearing about this day. So, we need to be mindful of donor fatigue and not being oversaturating people. So just be thoughtful about keeping those messages relevant and actionable, making sure that it's something that is truly useful to your supporters and not just broadcasting kind of that generic content again. It also kind of, one way you can, queue up your donors is just making sure that they know that you'll be talking to them more often over the next, month or 2 months, whatever your campaign schedule is. But yeah, the other thing to kind of consider is, if this is your first year, as we mentioned in the first segment today, keep it simple, and just know your capacity. So, having maybe a lighter approach on communications versus a heavier approach. This also applies that if you're a small organization versus a medium to large size organization. But you can, smaller organizations or first-time participants can really focus on maybe, one thing at a time. Maybe it's, securing that matching gift like Leah was talking about, or maybe you want to really focus on peer-to-peer. I would say choosing one, and then that helps kind of keep your messaging a little more clear and concise. You're not inundating people with 4 different ways to get involved, but rather focusing on one. And for, those medium and large size organizations, maybe you have capacity to kind of focus on multiple calls to action and kind of engaging people at, different levels, whether that's peer-to-peer fundraising and, social influencers, whatever fits your organization and the kind of tools that you have at your disposal. And then lastly, we have a final steps webinar that I also want to kind of plug, and that is scheduled for, I need some support on this one. Thought I knew the date.
I know, I thought I did too. It is August 18th.
Okay, yes. So you can find that, you can register for all the trainings on the toolkit page as well. So if you go to the toolkit page, you'll see a way to register for that final steps webinar. But with that, are there any specific questions? I know I try to take a more general approach, but if there's any specific questions that you're thinking about for your organization, I'd be happy to kind of dive into those.
For anyone that might be joining us, I just wanted to repeat again that we do have a recording of the webinar that happened last week that really dives into leveraging matches and peer-to-peer fundraising, which are 2 really important tools for making the most out of your giving day. So the link that I just sent in the chat, the slides are available there, plus the recording, plus lots of shorter training videos that you guys can watch if you don't have quite as much time. Are there any other questions? All right, well, with that, we're going to go into our second break. In the meantime, if you guys have any tips that you can share, maybe about a timeline that you've worked on before, feel free to chat those in and we can share them later on in like our frequently asked questions section at the end of the day. But we would love to hear any helpful tips that you guys have so that we can share with everyone. From that, let's break and we'll come back at 11:15 to talk a little bit about fundraising during COVID-19. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Mari.
You're welcome.